All right, so today we are talking about the production process, specifically with relation to creating one for your own business and your own venture plan. So let's get started. Production, your Google definition says it is the action of making or manufacturing from components or raw materials. Basically, the process of being manufactured. Most people, when they think of production, they think of physical goods. Okay. However, I do want to bring to your attention the concept of service production. Okay. Service production does also exist, and that is the process of delivering a service to customers. So, really, production is just all the actions and steps that result in your end sale or your end revenue being produced for your business. So just because you offer a service or just because you sell a good that you don't make yourself, you do still have production, and there are still things that you need to be thinking about. So, what is your business's production process and how do we come up with it for your venture plan? Well, first, it's going to be different for every single business, okay? Even if your business is something very similar to another business, your production process could be different, and that might actually be the advantage for your business. So, yes, having some experience in the industry is going to help give you a jumping off point, okay? But you don't need to do it the exact same as everything else. Basically, you want to sit down and think of every step that you need to get for your product or service to be to your customer. Okay, every little thing that needs to be done. A lot of people like to make a diagram of this. It can also be a list, but it's important that you don't just note the steps. You actually go into detail of what happens at each point, who is going to do it, where does it take place, and you get really, really specific and detailed. So, for example, if we look at a hair salon, okay, a lot of service businesses, I like to actually go through and think of it kind of from a customer's point of view. So if we think of getting or going to a hair salon, the very first thing that a customer is going to do is likely call or email to make an appointment. So we need to think about that process, okay? If they're calling, who is picking up the phone? Okay, and what system or database are we using to make appointments? Okay, what is that process? Is there a book? Who's working what days? How is that going to happen? Okay, when a customer walks in, who is going to greet them and what is that setup going to look like? Are we going to have chairs there for them to sit in? Even so much as, are they going to have a magazine to read? Well, who is going to be handling those subscriptions and making sure those are there and making sure that that area is clean? Okay, once they come back and they meet their stylist, you know what, they may go and get their hair washed. Okay, again, who is ordering that product? Okay, to make sure that it is there. And then just continuing to go through every single step along the way. A more familiar production process you might see is more in a manufacturing facility. So this right here is actually the manufacturing process for McDonald's hamburger buns, okay? So you can see it's really been dividing up the physical steps in a factory or in an assembly line. Whether you're doing a service or a good, whether it's, you know, being produced or just being moved or repackaged or presented differently in your store, okay, most of your steps are going to can fall into 4 different categories. So once you've actually sat down and gone through yourself what you think all of the steps are, we want you to consider these categories. So purchasing, processing, quality control, and possibly grading. Okay, and making sure that we've thought of all of these aspects. So the first one is purchasing, and per the word, it's fairly straightforward, but it's who is responsible for purchasing the product, but also ensuring that you have enough of what you need on hand. Okay, these are really, really important decisions. Okay, it can be one individual, it can actually be a whole department if you're running a factory, and sometimes it can even be outsourced to other agencies or done electronically. Okay, Walmart, for example, has this whole system that, you know, as items are purchased and their barcodes are scanned, how much is on hand is kept track of by a computer, and it will automatically go out and order new ones to make sure that there's enough on the shelves. Okay, when we're starting a new business, that's unlikely to be the process, but we need to make sure that somebody that's involved in the process, that there is a system in place to make sure that there is enough on hand. Okay, whether that's the people that are using it letting you know, whether that's the person kind of who's planning how many are going to be sold is letting you know, whatever that process is, it needs to be thought of for every little thing that you need. Okay, every little thing is stepped away. From my hairdressing example, magazines, to the shampoos, to the scissors or the tools that they're going to use to cut, etc., etc. Okay. Also within that role, okay, we need to make sure that we are getting the needed products at the best price. This can be a huge make or break, especially for new businesses. Okay, when buying that product, we need to consider the quality, the price, as well as hidden factors. Okay, so some hidden factors could be shipping. So an example we use a lot, if you were going to be making custom t-shirts, you need to buy your base t-shirts. You could buy them from a company here in Canada right next door for $5 a shirt, or you could buy them from a company in China for $2 a shirt. Okay, our gut reaction would always be China, $2. But something we need to consider would be shipping. If the shipping ends up making the final price $5 a shirt, okay, that's something we need to consider. The other thing may be that even with shipping, it could be $4 a shirt. But the thing that we need to realize is when we order from China, we need to order a month or two in advance. We need to have a very good idea of how many shirts we're going to need, what sizes we're going to need. That may not be realistic for our new business. So we might be more willing to pay that $1 a shirt extra for a company that can get us something the next day, and it can be exactly what we want, and we don't need to be holding on to inventory. So those are definitely some things you need to consider when figuring out who is going to supply your products. Okay, so just jumping back to that one, when you're making your production process list, okay, again, finding those responsibilities and listing that out for yourself is really important. The next one is processing. Okay, so processing is any action that is done to convert one good to another. So a lot of your production steps are going to be considered processing. Okay, this can be moving items, washing items, altering them in any sort of way. Okay, the majority of the work that is done is in processing, but it's important that we keep track of all of these little things. Okay, when we get a shipment of new products that arrive after they've been purchased, who is physically taking them out of the boxes and putting them on the shelves, and how is that organized, and how do they know to do that? Okay, there's lots of little steps that kind of get missed and little details that get missed. Okay, so you need to make sure that you really think through all of those little tiny steps along the way. Next one is quality control. And often in our initial production process, this is something that is missed. Okay, but quality control is ensuring that the products conform to certain standards. So these could be our own standards. Okay, if you're opening a food truck, for example, you know what, you may want the food to look a certain way, to be done to a certain way, okay, before it goes out the window. So what is that final check going to be? Who is doing that? Okay. It also may be government standards. If you're producing food, if you're producing medicine, if you're producing toys, there's certain laws, which hopefully you've seen when you looked at the regulations, that need to be followed. Okay. And so it's very, very important that we know what those are, and that we're also having somebody check to make sure that those are being followed. Okay. Finished items should be tested. Okay, it doesn't need to be a big formal testing process. It might be, depending what you're making, but there should be some sort of quality control in process, because no matter how small your business might be, one bad experience with a customer can be the thing that breaks you as a new business. Okay, that one bad review. We want to make sure that we are avoiding that. Okay, so for service businesses, this could even be check-ins with customers. Is there anything else I can get you? Okay, what is that looking like, and who is overseeing that? Okay, depending what you're producing, if you are making a good, there's the international quality standards, the ISO certified, is something that you might want to consider. Okay, this is a certification that you can get saying that your products meet the international standards, which makes it much easier to sell your products on an international market. Okay, so there's 150 companies that have come together to set these worldwide standards for things such as medicine, cars, construction, healthcare, telecommunication, and metals. So if you're thinking of producing something within those categories, you'll definitely want to look into what those specs are and make sure your products meet them. The final category is something that we call grading. Okay, so this definitely doesn't apply everywhere. Generally, it's more to products. Okay, but this is an extra step in production that can be done to basically categorize our products. Okay, so with quality control, we might throw out a product or not sell it because it doesn't meet our standards. With grading, nothing's being thrown out. We're just selling them to different people or in different boxes based on some certain standards. Okay, so for example, eggs. When you go to the store, you can buy a carton of large eggs or extra large eggs. You can also buy white eggs or brown eggs. So when the farmers have eggs that come out, they're going to do quality control. If something's cracked, it's going to be thrown out. But they have an extra step where they're dividing them out by, white or brown and by size for the packaging for who they're going to sell them to. So if you are making an item like this may be something that's important. Okay, meat is graded based on quality. Okay, diamonds are graded, gasoline is graded, vegetables, okay, which ones are sold at the grocery store, the perfect right size, etc. Straight carrots, whereas, the crooked carrots get sold into, they might get sold to Campbell's to make soup out of them because they're going to get cut up anyway. Okay, so it might be an extra step that you need to consider that your business might need to be doing at the end. So that is the production process. Okay, like I said, it's very individualized for each business, and it does take some time to sit down and think through those different steps.
Thank you so much for watching today's lesson, brought to you by Plugin to Learning. All the resources used in this video are linked in the description below. If you have any questions, feel free to comment. And to continue learning with us, please subscribe.